Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. Tonight's June the 22nd. My name's Thomas Williams and let's have some music. Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. My name's Thomas Williams. Quick update. I know many don't partake in the Facebook page, but our chat person, Victoria Playstow, we dedicated some rather amusing songs last week to. She has undergone 3 operations this week. And she's in a lot of pain, but she's fighting in, staying in there, and hopefully now, after this operation, she'll be on the road to recovery, and we can get her back doing our chat page. I know although we all love Victoria, so we wish her well. Holly won't be around tonight as she's working, so it's just me. And we've got some intel tonight. Boy, have we got some intel. It's gonna rattle the cages a bit. Right, let's get into some of who and what we are for any new listeners. This is the Truth, Honour and Integrity. If you don't want to partake on the Facebook, but want to take part in the show by asking questions, you can send an email to truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail.com. The show is live on the Spreaker. It's at Spreaker.com/user/8955881. We also have an articles website called thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. And if you would like to partake in social media but don't want to do Facebook, you are welcome to join us on the Truth, Honour and Integrity on MeWe.com. If you're struggling to, I know some people struggle to access that particular site, if you send your email to the Truth, Honour and Integrity @gmail.com, then I can add you into that particular group. The People's Club donations website and all about the foundation is at the peoplesclub.org. Right, with all that all done, we have some fairly heavy intel coming up in the second hour. A few op-ed pieces to get people thinking, and an update I'm going to read out that was on the Facebook page. I did on Sunday because I felt it was important, so that will be for the listeners' benefit. I'll probably do that later in this first hour. Right, let's get on with some news. There's a fair bit going on, and the most prevalent one is what's going on in London in the UK. Now, protests are being held in London as residents demand support for those affected by the Grenfell Tower fire. Between 50 and 60 people stormed Kensington and Chelsea Town Hall as members of the public said the homeless needed help right now. Apparently, some of them that were saved from the fire are now on the streets. Nice way to look after people. No difference here. It seems to be the way things are at the moment. They don't think very highly of us, but we don't think highly of them, and you'll find out why later. And crowds gathered outside the town hall where the Prime Minister Theresa May met survivors, and protests have been held also at Downing Street, because that's the main Parliament building. like the White House for the UK. Mrs May has sanctioned $5 million for clothes, food and emergency supplies, while the death toll has risen to at least 30 according to the BBC. They understood it to be near 70. Both figures are drastically short, I'll tell you that for nothing. And only 3 so far have been identified when I posted this piece. There was nothing to suggest that the fire was started deliberately, the police said. Yeah, right. One member of the public said nobody knows what is happening. People are so angry. Those people shouldn't be sleeping in the streets. Mr Mansour, who organised the protest, read a statement from the council which promised to rehouse as many people locally as they could and to provide funding for those who were affected. But he called the response flimsy with no concrete answers, especially on the question of the number of residents who lived in the flats. They won't give out the details of how many were in those flats. Rumour has it there was 42 in one particular flat. That's the housing problem. Now, in spite of promises to the contrary, Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the UK, and the local council and some residents of Grenfell Tower have been offered accommodation in Preston. This is, for those American listeners, this is basically moving people ballpark 200 miles from their home. And even as far north as Northumberland, which is near 275 miles from their home. And they've been threatened with being labelled intentionally homeless. Oh, I don't know. Now, I won't use swear words. I'd like to. So they're going to be labelled intentionally homeless if they refuse the offer of the housing, which is 200 to 275 miles away. Being judged intentionally homeless would mean the withdrawal of support and the loss of a position on the housing list. But it has also emerged that it can also mean losing the custody of your children. Intentional homelessness, when dependent children are involved, usually results in the involvement of social services, and we all know what they're up to. And as a government document on intentional homelessness confirms, social services departments frequently limit their response to offering to take the children into care. The document goes on to elaborate that the government's aim should be to avoid families being split up as a consequence of homelessness through a mix of better prevention services and support packages and the use of other means of intervention, such as antisocial behaviour orders where appropriate, but offers no guarantee that the aim must be successfully achieved. That's the social services I used to work for when I was back in England. Services is a misnomer. They're not there to provide services. Social workers were leaving as part of a scheme when I was there. Private scheme where they remained social workers connected to the council and were being paid £20,000, which is roughly $26,000, to remove a child from the home. Whereby they then went into a, inverted commas, justice system, where the parents were not allowed to speak or attend, or their lawyer, and a judgment was passed, and the child invariably ended up in foster care, and under the condition that the parents never saw the child again. Foster care is also in heavily inverted commas. We all know what happens next. So the inhumanity of the attempts to pressure Grenfell survivors into accepting unsuitable or distant accommodation is even more profound than it first appeared. So basically they've offered them homes between 200 and 275 miles away. If you don't take it, you're in danger of having your children taken off you. Dear me. Further news on the Grenfell Tower. I called it as it was happening. Insurance. Of course, we in America know all about insurance claims on certain September the 11th, don't we? Mr. Silverstein. Norwegian insurer Protector Forsikring initially revealed that last week's Grenfell Tower fire could lead to an insurance bill of more than £25 million, roughly $33 million. But now the expected total payout is estimated to be as high as £1 billion, $1.25 billion. This could be Europe's single biggest building insurance payout, according to a report by the Sputnik News. It said the Times estimated the total bill with eventual cost depending on the number of fatalities, which they won't record or won't detail, the price of demolishing and rebuilding the property. They won't be rebuilding the tower. You'll notice all the offices did not go on fire. As you can spot things. And rebuilding the property minus the people and the litigation. Kensington and Chelsea Council, for the American listeners, this particular region is probably the most expensive in the whole of Europe, bar none. Most homes there are $1.3 million minimum. In fact, some of the apartments are more than that. And so these people don't want a load of Muslims in a ugly, in their words, carbuncle, as the big-eared one, Prince Charles, would say, on their back door. And this is why it's gone. So Kensington and Chelsea Council, which owns the freehold of the tower, reportedly switched insurance providers about 3 months before the fire. Go figure. Just like 9/11. And according to the Metropolitan Police now, there is 79 people missing as of June the 19th. Try near 300 to 500. It's the real figure. I'll have a bit more on that piece, on that particular item in the op-ed later on. We'll go on to some other news. Without Mr. Trump's in it again. Yes, he is. Anyway, here's a laugh. As if we're going to listen to what they have to say. The US heart experts have stated that coconut oil is as unhealthy as beef dripping and butter. Yeah, right. According to them, it is packed with saturated fat which can raise bad cholesterol. Yeah, right. And in updated advice, coconut oil is commonly sold as a health food, and some claim that the fat in it may be better for us than saturated fats. The American Heart Association, however, says there is no good studies to support coconut oil being of any good health. We'll take that. So it should come as no surprise that it's been mentioned in an article done this week that since taking office, President Trump has ceded significant control over military decisions to the Defense Secretary James Mattis and his generals. This week, Mattis is expected to announce that about 4,000 more troops will be sent to Afghanistan. That's in addition to the 8,400 already there, reversing what was to have been a reduction in troops to, listen to this, 989,000 troops by 2018, driven in large part by budget caps imposed in 2011. The Army is now adding 28,000 soldiers. It has also announced that it is on track to have a force of 1,018,000 by the end of the fiscal year in September. The numbers break down like this: 476,000 regular Army troops, which is up by 16,000, 343,000 in Army National Guard, which is up by 8,000, 199,000 in the Army Reserve, which is up by 4,000, with the troop strength of the Marines at almost 184,000. That should give America more than 1.2 million ground troops. This compares to 1.6 million for China, which Vice says is the largest standing ground force in the world. But the 2018 budget proposal sent to Congress by the Trump administration is for $639.1 billion on war. $52 billion over the defence budget caps. Funny how they can just pluck billions out of the air for war and weaponry and military, but none for the people. So in order to put more boots on the ground, the Army is spending big, offering re-enlistment bonuses for selected soldiers of up to $90,000 bonus. For a 4-year commitment, $90,000 bonus. There's some people not earning that in 3 years. On June the 6th, the AP reported that the Army had shelled out over $26 million in the previous 2 weeks and is expected to spend more than $380 million in bonuses in 2017 alone. There'll be more on that in the op-ed piece. That really grates on me there. Here's another militaristic entity, the Pentagon. This would be funny if it wasn't our money. The Pentagon has wasted as much as $28 million over the past decade buying uniforms for the Afghan army. You literally can't make this shit up. With a woodland camouflage pattern on the uniform that is only useful for a tiny fraction of the war-torn country, as forests only cover 2.1% of Afghanistan's total land area. 28 million. The Afghan Defence Minister picked the pricey, privately owned forest colour pattern over the free camouflage schemes owned by the US government, according to an advance copy of the report that was due out this Wednesday. The scathing 17-page study notes that my concern is what if the Minister of the Defence had liked purple as appointed and appropriated to train, equip and house Afghan security people. 66 billion to house Afghan security people and train them. Have we got mugs written across our foreheads? Where's the people's oversight of this? So Wednesday's particular instalment on uniforms was noting that special tailoring, zippers instead of buttons, boosted the cost of the uniforms of already dubious value. The report's release comes as Defence Secretary Jim Mattis considers sending thousands more US troops to bolster beleaguered Afghan forces in what has become America's longest war. The Afghan troops face a resurgent Taliban insurgency, who are an offshoot of the Islamic State, ISIS, and other terrorist groups. The Pentagon has spent $93 million on uniforms since 2007. Ooh. No, don't swear, Thomas. 66 billion to train, equip and house Afghan security forces. And how long have they been there? 10, 12 years? And he still can't defeat a couple of ragtag Taliban people? Ooh, incompetency at its highest levels. The so-called Islamic State, now called or ISIS, or ISIL, or whatever name Langley comes up with this week, has blown up the great mosque of Al-Nuri in Mosul. Iraqi forces say the historic landmark is where the IS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi proclaimed a caliphate. Where have we heard that before? Yes, in this show. For those of you who don't know what a caliphate is, this is part of the manifesto. That was a Vatican manifesto I read in the 90s, where they called for the complete elimination of all people in the Middle East and to continue the war right across the Middle East up halfway through Turkey. All of it. Whereby then the Vatican would move out of Rome and into Jerusalem and build the third temple. No surprise, caliphate's coming up to me. People thought it was ludicrous when I first mentioned it. With all the refugees that have taken place in that area, it doesn't look so ludicrous now, sadly. And this is why the Rothschilds want the million-man army to go into the Middle East to finish the whole thing off. They won't get it. However, IS claims that it wasn't them. You know, these people are generally so honest, about the only honest people around. You know, do the sleepers not see this? You know, you go into any environment and someone's stolen something or someone's broke something. How many times does somebody go, "It was me, it was me"? No, everyone looks the other way and shuffles about and go, well, it was an accident, or maybe it fell off, or, you know, all kinds of excuses. But not terrorists. They're as honest as the day. They just turn around and tell you, we did it, we did it. Yeah, right. ISIS claimed that a US aircraft destroyed the mosque in a statement issued by its news outlet Amaq. The Iraqi commander in charge of the offensive to retake Mosul, thought we won there 14 years ago, said troops were within 50 miles of the mosque when IS committed another historical crime. Yes, Langley. The jihadists destroyed a string of important heritage sites in Iraq and Syria. The UN has said that IS may be holding more than 100,000 people in Mosul as human shields. Yeah, right. Russia, we haven't heard from them for a while, is one of the few states that has the luxury of being truly sovereign. We're going to hear a lot more about that term in the coming weeks and months. Now, Germany doesn't have that luxury, according to Jim Jatras, a former US diplomat. Germany and Austria called the new anti-Russian sanctions approved by the US Senate on Thursday as unacceptable, adding that they violate international law and designed to benefit the US oil and gas industry. Go figure. Germany threatened to retaliate against the US if new sanctions against Russia end up harming German interests. Interesting that Mrs. Merkel said she's going to retaliate. Kind of reminds me of what Mr. Putin said the other day, that Russia is one of the few states that has the luxury of being truly sovereign, but Germany, as stated, does not have that luxury. Now, as for Mrs. Merkel and throwing threats around, people will remember how she folded like a house of cards when she found out that Barack Obama was tapping her cell phone, of all things. In fact, Germany is not a fully sovereign state, that her foreign policy, her intelligence policy, their institutions are essentially controlled by their American counterparts, and their financial sectors are extremely vulnerable to any retaliation from the Americans. What can she do to us if she doesn't kill this bill? Not too much. So America controls Germany. Apparently the sound's playing funny games. That's probably because I mentioned a certain place in Virginia. Oh well, on we go. President Trump has appeared this week to acknowledge he is under investigation in the inquiry into alleged Russian meddling in the US election. In a tweet, the president also seemed to accuse the US Deputy Attorney General of pursuing a witch hunt against him. He said, "I am being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director." Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein wrote a memo in the White House used to justify the firing of the ex-FBI chief. Mr. Rosenstein took over the investigation into whether Russia tried to tip the US election in favour of Mr. Trump after Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself in March. The Deputy Attorney General later appointed Special Counsel Robert Mueller, with a nice Nazi name, to lead the inquiry. Mr. Rosenstein won't last too much longer. Here's someone who hasn't lasted any longer. Helmut Kohl. For those who may be familiar with the name, he's Germany's ex-chancellor and architect of reunification in 1990, where the East and West Germany became one country in Germany. He died at the age of 87. Seems to be a lot of people dying at age 87 recently. Maybe it's a new cabal number. Anyway, Mr. Kohl led Germany for 16 years, from 1982 through to 1998. He is credited with bringing the East and West Germany together after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Together with his French ally President François Mitterrand, he was responsible for the introduction of the euro. That says a lot, does it not? German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Kohl's former protege, who later called for his resignation over a political funding scandal, said his death filled her with deep sadness. Yeah, right. You've got to have compassion to do that, Mrs. Merkel. You have none. And then a dead entity pops up, formerly known as the US President George Herbert Walker Bush, somehow paid a tribute from the grave to the man he knew while in office from 1989 to 1993 as, quote, a true friend of freedom, unquote, and one of the greatest leaders in post-war Europe. So that quote from the entity known as George Herbert Walker Bush tells you all you need to know about Helmut Kohl. This is another example of how business and corporate business are okay taking your money but don't want to give it back, a bit like insurance agencies and banks. You must fill out this form if you take X amount out of your own money out of the bank. This is an American woman is suing a casino. The slot machine told her, had a display of she had won the jackpot $43 million, and the casino told her that the machine was faulty, go figure, and offered her a steak dinner instead. 43 million or a steak dinner? Oh, such a difficult choice. I don't know. I'll have to think about it, or maybe I'll phone a friend and ask. I mean, what if the machine was faulty? Fair enough. But that's what it says on the tin. These casinos are making money hand over fist. It's stacked odds. They could have quite easily turned round to it and gone, we're sorry the machine is broke. We're not giving you 43 million, but here's $1 million. And the steak dinner. No! They escorted her out the building and told her the next day she could only have $2.25. Time to shut that casino down. Because if it can happen to this one, it can happen to every one of them who appears in the Resorts World Casino in New York. Just take your money. Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III, oh my God, there was 2 previous to him, how awful, is investigating the finances and business dealings of one Jared Kushner. Told you Mr. Kushner won't be lasting very long. President Trump's son-in-law and advisor, as part of the investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. According to officials familiar with the matter, FBI agents and federal prosecutors have also been examining was a pre-inauguration diplomatic encounter and unrelated to business matters. The Russian bank, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, which has been the subject of US sanctions following Russia's annexation of Crimea, has said that the session was held for business reasons because of Kushner's role as head of the family's real estate company. The meeting occurred as Kushner's company was seeking finances for its troubled $1.8 billion purchase of an office building on Fifth Avenue in New York, and it could raise questions about whether Kushner's personal financial interests were colliding with his impending role as a public official. Mr. Mueller's investigation is in a relatively early phase, and it's unclear whether criminal charges will be brought when it's complete. I would suggest Mr. Kushner will quietly sidle away in the near future. Okay, we keep getting cutouts. Apologies for that. Fun and games. Maybe we have some interesting intel. Oops. It may cut out after this next piece. This is something I delved into and found out myself. And it's related to Mr. Kushner again. But what people don't know is also related to September of 2001. Yes, these people go that far back. Anyway, on February the 15th, 2001, the Port Authority in New York announced that Vornado Realty Trust had won the bid for a 99-year lease for the World Trade Center after offering $3.25 billion. Silverstein Properties was outbid by $30 million by Vornado Realty Trust. However, Vornado balked over lease terms and possible tax liabilities, and then Mr. Silverstein signed the lease for the World Trade Center in April 2001. Vornado is headed by Stephen Roth, R-O-T-H. On we go. Mr. Trump pledged during the campaign to embark on a roughly $1 trillion infrastructure program, saying the nation needs to rebuild crumbling roads, bridges, and expand telecommunications networks and repair aging water systems. The Trump campaign said investing in infrastructure would help stimulate employment and economic growth in the US, unlike previous stimulus efforts. However, Mr. Trump's infrastructure program would rely primarily on private investors using new tax breaks to lure private capital for major to head this $1 trillion infrastructure program: Richard Lafrac and Stephen Roth. Make your own mind up on that. Vornado Realty Trust is in the same building and is a joint partner of Jared Kushner. Oops. Right, that's the news. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read out what the update I did for the listeners who don't partake in the Facebook page, and then we'll probably go into a music break, and we'll be back with a couple of op-ed pieces and some booming intel. Where are we? Let me see. Find it. Right. Now, this is in response to some of the things that I see on the page and some of the people I speak to in private. names I will not be divulging. It's not the way I work. But some are struggling in different ways currently, and I decided to do an update on Sunday, and I was hopeful that this will help some people, if not all of you. And many of you may be experiencing at this time imbalance, swings of depression, and then over-elation, and then back to depression. This is an imbalance. Recognise it, and it will also require a self-realignment. Meditation helps. This comes back to what I was talking about recently on a couple of shows about the metronome, where it swings one way then the other. Good mood, bad mood, good mood, bad mood. No. That's loose territory. What they don't want you is to be calm and in the centre, where the swinging arm just moves ever so slightly one way or the other. I'm getting more messages. Or maybe not. On we go. You may be experiencing a detachment of sorts with other people close to you or not. Let it and them go. I first brought this up 2 years ago, that people and their loved ones and their family would drift apart, and you will see an increase in it. Well, it's happened. Now you've got to remember is they are not your responsibility. We've taken enough on already by taking the painful path, the path of truth, which is brutal and painful. They have their path and you have yours. So don't feel guilty. Some feel or many feel at this time, with the overload of disclosure coming out, that they need to catch up or keep up with all the information. No, you don't. If you are in balance yourself, you'll receive what you need to know on your path. You don't have to go chasing every news item or every video or every show or every YouTube. That's scattering you. That's what they want. They want to tip all of us over the edge where we can't handle it. Drama and distraction, which is in overload at the moment. I hate to tell you this, but it's going to amplify big time in the coming weeks and months. Do not immerse yourself into it like you have to. Take steps back and overview it all. You will see and hear it better, and you will also gain wisdom in that way. Look at it from above. Don't join the midst. Anxiety is within. It is not, as not all has been released by the individual struggling with it. Anger is a projection of that anxiety. This is about you doing your shadow work, you doing your inner work. Only you can do it. No one can do it for you. You have to do it yourself. The benefits going forward will be reaped exponentially for those who take that difficult path. I know there's many who have gone through many traumatic events that people should never have to go through in their lives. But you have to face up to it. You can't keep storing that heavy, negative, vibrational frequency within you and expect all good to come out of it. All you're going to get is dis-ease, imbalance, depression. Let it go. Now, it appears some, to me at least, have lost some focus due to a scattering nature and a volume of information that's being put forward. Some people are experiencing short-term memory loss, agitation, reactionary are the most common symptoms. If you feel that is you, you need to pull back and reassess the you. People have to get ready for the testing times ahead. We have to go through it. We have to deal with it. The pain and the trauma the truth brings, otherwise the shit show continues for all of us. The synthetics or the sleepers are oblivious to it all. Most of you will have worked that out by now. They all have the pill of no pain, no trauma, no compassion, no empathy, no civility. They are like the City of Light in the 100 series. They are wired into a central AI command and repeat system, devoid of free thinking, devoid of common sense, and devoid of reality. You can't help these people at this time. They're going to have to go through what we've gone through in stages in one go. That's their choice. Your path is your choice, and your choice only. It's not conditional of anybody else. It's only conditional to you. Right, I hope that helped. I know it helped some people. I hope it helped a lot more. We're going to go into some music. I've seen someone post something before, so here we go.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Hi all, and welcome back to the second hour. Right, we're going to go into a couple of op-ed pieces, and then we're going to go boom with some intel. One portion just makes me think of Drake. You'll know why when I say it. Oh dear me, he'll go into meltdown on Saturday. Right, well first, there's a few things I want to cover, things that are going on, and things I'd like to say. I had to say about Afghanistan, how much waste for this ongoing war that never seems to end, which is basically correct. It's war on terror with a T-E-R-R-A, not war on terror. This is what they had planned. It's not working too well, but unfortunately a lot of people are suffering in the near term. Long term, it won't be. Now, we're going to go into Iraq, because the American people need to start asking real questions of what's going on there. And the question remains is why, having spent around 6 trillion, that's with a T, not a B, on war in Iraq, having allegedly conquered them in 1991, 26 years ago, why did we have to go back in 2001? Why did idiot Bush say the war is over and mission accomplished in 2003? That's 14 years ago. Mr. Obama declared the end of combat in 2010. So that's the third time. 1991, 2003 and 2010. Here we are, 2017, or is it 2013? There's someone else picking up on that now. And we still have over 5,000 sacrificial slaves, who are more commonly known as soldiers, still in Iraq. Thought the war was over 3 times. Yet again, like Afghanistan, we the people have spent billions of our money training Iraqi troops. We can't even train our own properly. So we spent all these billions. We've had 3 goes at ending the war. How is it then that the alleged ISIS has taken over Mosul? And apparently we're still fighting them. I thought we took over Iraq at least twice, if not 3 times. How, with all that spending and all that planning, have we allegedly lost regions of Iraq to insurgents? Questions need to be asked. The American people need to start asking these questions, as that money is what's ruining our better lifestyle. Because all that money being wasted in Iraq and Afghanistan could be put to people who actually pay for it and achieve a better lifestyle. But now they have continued to waste and wasted on a daily basis. And yet here we are, 2017, another new president. All this money spent, and yet they've still got portions of Iraq, and they're still fighting after 26 years. You've got to remember, Iraq has no air command. So they've got total air dominance, virtually total sea dominance, and we're losing to a ragtag bunch after spending $6 trillion. Why hasn't a single military head rolled for the missing money, the wasted money, a war strategy that is basically at best inept, at worst criminal incompetence? I mean, you get a better war strategy from a 10-year-old child playing on Civilization 4. It's time the public realised it is their hard-earned money that is going into these people with the badges of dishonour that have turned this country and its people into a pariah nation, committed vast atrocities not only against other countries but its own people. Let's not forget that. Northwoods, etc., etc. Paperclip, MK Ultra. And in my opinion, the US military should be completely dismantled, piece by piece, and our tax money going back to restoring this country and its people to its optimal best. This incompetence and war for the sake of it has to end. with a blight on this planet. Whether we like that or not, it's been done in our name, and it's about time we started questioning what is really going on. And heads should roll, as in all of them. There's another incident that they're telling a pack of lies over. The US destroyer near Japan, I think it was on Saturday, yeah. Has anyone seen the pictures? Has anyone questioned it? Is that damage consistent with the crash of vessels? As from what I could see, the damage was not on the side of the ship, it was on the deck. Oops. Does that not suggest something was dropped on it? Now, on Saturday morning, the BBC announced a major search and rescue of the 7 missing sailors. A major search operation is underway for 7 missing US sailors after their ship collided with a merchant vessel off the coast of Japan. Several Japanese and US boats and aircraft have been deployed, with the search continuing into the night. An investigation into how the USS Fitzgerald collided with a Philippine, go figure, Mr. Duterte, remember, registered container ship in the early hours of Saturday morning has begun. The questions that remain is, why is the damage on the top of the deck? The question that needs to be answered, and the questions remain, is why did the ship get off and leave 7 missing sailors in the water? And the question also remains is how they just found the 7 sailors in the damaged area of the ship. Did they not search when it happened? Something not right there, is there? By Saturday afternoon, despite air and sea rescue attempts, the US Navy announces that they found them on the ship. Really? Go and have a look at the damage for yourself. It ain't consistent again. And you notice it's largely been kept off the news. Another question for people need to look at, mainly a question for the non-thinkers. How can media and authorities identify within hours the name of a blown-up alleged terrorist or 19 hijackers on 9/11, complete with unburnt passports that magically manifest themselves, but are currently stating they may not be able to identify those murdered in the Grenfell Tower for months, and some may never be identified? How is that? Is that reality? Does that make sense? Or is, as we know, is it a predetermined narrative for the masses to consume? Magic passport survived 90 floors, towers, and just turn up on the page with the name of the alleged terrorist. But they can't identify who is in the Grenfell Towers. For months, they said. Life is strange. Now, what I'm pleased, being a former resident and being born in the UK, it's a sign of the people waking up. The massive amounts of demonstrations, the massive amount of people, not just alternative media. The numbers are way above that for protests of ordinary members of the public, some of the sleepers, starting to wake up. We've seen members of the public going on the BBC and Sky, which is Fox, the equivalent of Fox, same company owned by the same elite or elite. Mr. Murdoch calling out the media for being complicit in it, calling out the government for being complicit in it, calling out the local authority for being complicit in it. This is a sea of change. Us Brits are not complainers. We just tolerate everything and just go in corners and murmur to each other. That's not right, that's not right. That's the way the British life is. Not no more. They're calling out the London Bridge. Both of them. They're calling out the Grenfell Tower. And they're calling out Manchester now as well. So what did the Lites do? They moved the theatre to Brussels this week. An alleged terrorist there. Let's get the people of Belgium frightened. Now that the people have woke up, the consequences of the people of Britain waking up should prevent the possibility and the probability of the 4 or 5 more attacks planned for the UK. There was 7 in total planned. That's what happens when people wake up. They have to change their plans. They have to stop. Now imagine if everyone woke up. It's game over. It's literally game over. They can't handle it. They can't handle it now. So there's some questions for people to think of. Right, we're going to get into some intel. Some of it's a bit iffy, but if you look at it from an overview point of view, you'll see a massive sign of desperation and a massive sign of failure also. Rothschilds, let's start with them clowns again. The hook-nosed bastards threatening to crash all the banks this week if they don't get what they want, or if the government takes some of the trust fund money to restart the country's economy. Now, if they do go ahead, fine, because we'll work better without them clowns. And what will take place is all the banks that they've shut down will be nationalised. How that will take place is, under such circumstances, it goes down as national emergency. And under national emergency, it means it does not take an act of Congress to fix it. So Trump alone can sign for the nationalisation of the banks under Article 1.8, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, of the Constitution. Go ahead, Rothschilds, make our day. What will happen after nationalisation? Well, within minutes of nationalisation, the trust fund will fund the banks, all of them, via the government. The government then installs their own personnel, even National Guard if necessary, and it's all done. Finished. It'll all be done in an afternoon. It may be done in an afternoon soon, regardless. So go and suck on an egg, Rothschilds, you complete blight on humanity. Rothschilds again. We're supposed to be paying out again this week, and again it failed. Oops. Message to the generals. Do you advocate repeated failures? Next item. The RV attempt. Number 1012. Failed again. Oops. I believe I've been told the RV people at the top are mightily pissed and doing what they do best, which is pointing fingers at each other. Message to the top brass again. Do you advocate repeated failures? You failed with the RV, you failed in Iraq, you failed in Afghanistan, and you failed in America. Quit it. What else has been going on this week? Many banks have been reporting and complaining this week that SWIFT transfers and wires have not been received or have been turning up a week late. No one had told you they didn't have any money. That's what they're reduced to. The portions that were stolen was the Rothschilds again, to keep them in the game. Now, this is still part of the old system, their system, so they can still get away with it. But they won't get away with it forever. Enforcement is awaiting. Once the new system goes in place and is fully implemented, these types of shenanigans will end overnight. Can't be done on the new system. Everything's fair, everything's transparent, which is the complete opposite of them. So what's been going on with the Lites? Well, to be quite honest, it's gone into very, very serious territory with them, and the infighting amongst them has now reached epic proportions. Of their control. Oops. They're failing badly. Here's another one that's failing badly. The DNC, in particular, has jumped on the short bus and is causing a riot currently. You see, they didn't get the seats they wanted in the recent elections this week, and have now gone completely and totally lunatic. The asylum awaits. I would advise people to watch them rather closely, as you may see some real fun with them in the coming weeks. Where are we next? Well, here we are again. It's 2013 again. Off-world traffickers Swiss Indo, oh dearly mate, have reared their ugly heads again in the recent weeks. And it seems now they're trying to recruit people into Bitcoin. You know why? They can't sell the dinars anymore. Oops. Told you it would fail. Android, like a entity operating as the hideous one known as Hillary Clinton, is going around currently telling everybody she's the boss of everything. So you just love her, not. Pull the other one, Android. Do us a favour. The reality is you're the boss of nobody. You couldn't even win a one-horse race selection and you're telling people you're the boss. Do everyone a favour and go and smoke some of your husband's cigars. I hear some of them have an extra taste to them. I believe your predecessor liked the extra taste on them as well. Oops. And here's where drinks go completely lose it. We've heard in the news about Pindar, the king of the world. Now, generally, there's one king of the world, except the Draco told a whole heap of the Illuminati and the Coven people that they were going to be the Pindar, including Mr. George Herbert Walker Bush, before he bit the dust. Now, I'm not going to tell you who the last one was, because it's kind of irrelevant now, but it's still not too clever. Basically, the last Pindar quit after telling them they are all, this is the elites, they're all full of shit, and he quit a few months ago. February, I think it was. February or March. You want to know who the new Pindar is? Maybe we should go into a musical break and I'll keep you all suspended. Here's where Drake loses it. Anyway, Mr. Barack Obama was elected the new Pindar. Suck that in. The ceremony took place today on Solstice Day. As per usual, you know they love their little rituals. And this is why Mr. Obama is running around pushing the RB. Except there's a big problem. They've tried to assign funding accounts to him so we can pay his buddies off. But all the accounts, and I mean all of them, were all rejected, as he is classed as an unauthorised party. Oops. It gets worse. Obama's being pointed Pindar over the Illuminati, and apparently his next step will be to appoint the entity known as Hillary Clinton as the Illuminati head over the United States of America. This is why she thinks she's the boss. She'll think again. Now, there are 9 regions of the world, and each one has a dragon head for the element of control. Now, at this present time, all 9 are competing for the head position all the time. The fact that Mr. Obama's been appointed will not go down well with certain other people who also thought that they were going to get appointed. So what is happening here is the Illuminati organization is completely and totally falling apart right in front of your eyes. Mr. Obama may have a title, but he has no clothes. Apologies to the listeners for that visual. He doesn't have any keys or codes to any of the financial systems and cannot release any funds whatsoever. Not to any country, and he certainly can't deliver it to the United States of America. Final portion of the intel, and then we'll go into a music break. The Illuminati, for those of you with long memories, I did a post on January the 1st, 2013, and a lot of the alternative media was freaking out because Ascension didn't happen as portrayed by many in the alternative media, including the slanted forehead one in particular, Mr. Wilcock. I did a review of that year, and I said people should be rejoicing, not feeling sad, because January the 1st, 2013 was the end of their game. They had to have everything in place by that date, and they failed yet again. Now, it's come to my attention this week. They were my own observations, but now it had it confirmed. Is the Illuminati were contracted to complete their mission, which is the 90% reduction of the populace, etc., etc., from the Draco, contracted for and by the Draco, and the contract expired on December the 31st, 2012. Oops. Again. Now, obviously we're in 2017, or are we? But the clowns just keep going like little wind-up toys. Now, I've stated all along, I remember having a discussion with Shane, where Shane says this infighting, or he felt the infighting was the cabal trimming the fat because it's become too bloated and they don't need as many cabal members now to control the populace, or so they thought. And I said they will eat each other and eat the lean, and what will be left will be a handful of irrelevant people with no control, no power, and no funds. And I still believe that. And as each day goes by, we're seeing the evidence of it. The reality is the Illuminati, and I mean all of them, are stupid. Their cleverness did not come from them. The schemes and the plans. It came from the Draco and the person known as M. M ran the financials, which is why they controlled everything. Now they've almost lost everything, which is why they've resorted to stealing. Yes, it annoys people that they're stealing and getting away with it, but from the point of view, it's a desperate sign of their struggles. Eventually they'll do it once too often. People always get caught. The more they push, you get greedy. Once the Illuminati and the Draco were cut off from the trust account back in 2007, which is why we entered into a recession 2008, and we haven't come out of it, because there's no money coming out of the trust account anymore. Zero. So they can't take money out of that, lend it to countries, including America, at interest, and not pay a trust back. Those days are over. They're leveraged way beyond any of their assets. Their sovereignty has been stripped. Their contracts, the 500-year one, the 1,000-year one, stripped. The 16,500-year contract, the 200-year contract, and the 100-year contract, all stripped away. And what we're left with is a bunch of trained Draco slaves. They might think they're hierarchy, but they're not. These are very stupid people who have been mind controlled into oblivion. They have no leaders. They have no mental fortitude. They have no common sense. In fact, they have no sense at all. Followers don't become leaders overnight, thankfully, for all of us. The reality is their time is short. And it's also time for the short bus ride for them into oblivion. We can then get on with things and show them the way. Hi all, and welcome back to the final portion. Last week I only had one break. Tonight I decided to play 3 songs on the trot because I was having fun on the chat on me week. Right, where are we next? I believe some didn't hear all the intel. Let me see what Rothschilds think they can spoil the game. They found out that they can't. Although they're stealing again. The RV failed again. Top brass are not best pleased, and fingers are being pointed. money's been stolen and or turning up a week late on the SWIFT transfers and wires, and some of the banks and the governments are not very pleased, so maybe they'll actually do something. Serious infighting amongst the Elites now. That's the elites. I'll give them the real name, Elites. El means God, but these people think they're God. Well, they're not our God, so they can go and F off as far as I'm concerned. And a new growth industry in America is hitmen. Seems they're all hiring them to take each other out, as disclosure has got officially out of hand and out of their control. DNC are causing a riot because they didn't get what they wanted, like sport brats, and you may see some real fun with them soon. Swiss Indo are recruiting people into Bitcoin now because they can't sell the dinars. Android is telling everybody she's the boss of everything. Yeah, right. Pindar, the last Pindar quit and told them all of them that they're full of shit, and he quit. The new idiot, Pindar means penis, by the way, so Obama is head dickhead, and Obama was elected the new Pindar in the ceremony took place today, and he's now thinking he's running the RV. He tried to have accounts assigned to him, but all accounts were rejected as he is declared as an unauthorised party. So in other words, you can be king of the world, but king of no one. Apparently Obama is going to appoint the droid as the Illuminati head of America. There are 9 regions in the world, and each one has a dragon head. They're all competing for head position all the time, and the organisation is literally falling apart, as predicted by this speaker. Mr. Obama does not have any keys or codes to the system and cannot release any funds to any country, and certainly not to the United States. The Illuminati were contracted to complete their mission for Earth by the Draco, and it expired on December the 31st, 2012. Now these clowns keep going thinking they're going to succeed. They won't. They will fail. I've said this for the last 4 years now, 4.5 years, and these people are quite frankly stupid beyond all doubt. Their intelligence and drive came from the Draco and the person known as M. Now they are gone. All that are left are trained Draco slaves with no leaders, no mental fortitude, no common sense, in fact no sense at all. Their time is short, and they will be on the short bus ride into oblivion fairly soon. We will then get on with things and start to fix what's wrong in this world once that is achieved. So that's the intel for this week. Wait till Drake finds out about Obama. Oh dear me. I think the description he used for Pelosi will come out on Saturday. Oh well. Some questions. Not many this week, so not too bad. I think I'm going to leave that till next week. I've done a satirical piece. I thought I'd lighten things up. There's a lot of angst going around in the alternative media. So I've done a satirical piece on David Wilcock and Corey Good, which is part fiction and whole chunks of fact wrapped in a rather satirical story. So I look forward to that. I may do it next week. I may add a bit more to it. Right, some questions. Was the shooting in DC the first shot in a civil war? This was from last week. I think it's to do with that senator. hoping there's a plan here and we do not lose by default when everyone trying to stop the deep state coup is eliminated. Yes, it was. It's certainly not the first shot. Maybe it's the first that people have noticed. But there's a lot more shooting going on behind the scenes. I know people get a bit tired of that, and I do understand it. You know, I've been a listener once, and not an insider, but it's literally bedlam out there at the moment. Those of you who've watched the Blacklist, where the agencies started taking each other out, then you'll know what I'm referring to. Yes, there is a plan. The deep state is still an issue. It is the main issue. People often overlook that. Even Obama, you know, he had no real clout. Trump either. You've seen what he's done with the military. He's given them carte blanche to do what they want, because he hasn't got sufficient platform to operate from. Whether Trump is good, bad, or indifferent, it's making a difference. The problem is there's 39 levels of secrecy above the President of the United States of America. Those levels have to be got rid of or dropped down to the level of the President before the President can actually do anything that's beneficial for and by the people. Those secrecy levels control the game. Now, as they continue to take each other out, and as they continue to disclose about each other and throw each other under the bus, we are still moving forward with all our plans. It just gives us more time to structure it and develop it. So nothing's changed. We have plans in place. There is 479 different aspects of what is happening currently around the world. So when people say, "Oh, just get on with it," those people really don't understand the depth of what is taking place here. You know, the last 4 to 5 years. In 2012, let's just take us back to December the 31st. We had the Draco, full force, controlling the trust account. They don't anymore. The Draco are not here anymore. The guy known as M does not exist anymore. The parents were 21 in number. 13 of them were the head of the 13 covens, and 8 others. What is left is now 2. 2 twins, both of whom are completely insane. And I'm not talking like criminal insane, I'm talking like mentally insane. They can't handle the frequencies. Those particular pair had been asleep for a while. And when they woke up, oh boy, things were different. They can't handle the new frequencies. I'm hoping Shane will be on shortly to give us an update on that particular situation, but I don't think it's changed too much. Now the 13 covens is down to 2, of which Queen Elizabeth is head of one of them. Except she's been threatened now also. All those gold bars that she owned is gone. All she is now is a public figure, so the public don't think anything's going on. Of course, she went against tradition today. Why? Because those traditions have gone. She's got nothing left. No control, no wealth, no power to keep the hierarchy again in the game. It didn't last. And the biggest problem that is now is in this country. It always was. It was always set up to be that way. We're the mugs of the world, being quite honest. Because a lot of the countries around the world now want to end it. They know they've lost. But not the clowns here. Or the clowns in Israel. Or should I say Zionist land rather than ISIS Ra-El. Let us not forget that Israel is a British enclave. Nothing to do with Israel being the promised land, etc., etc. No. It was set up by the Balfour Declaration in 1919 to create a separate state and basically split Palestine in two. Sound familiar? In Iraq was split into 4. Yugoslavia was split into 2 or 3. Bosnia, Montenegro, Serbia. This is what they do. Of course, America got split up to 50 states. It's divide and conquer. It's the Allies' way. Of course, Britain was the powerhouse, or the face of the powerhouse for so long, over the last 600-700 years, until they then passed the baton to America. The British people used to pay for all the wars. Now it's the American people that pays for all the wars. And for the clothes for the Afghan military, and the clothes for the Iraqi military, and the training. What benefits do we the people get for any of that? None. Has gas gone down? Or petrol, as you call it in Europe? No. It's gone up. But we've got all this glut of oil and gas. Why can't we charge the people 10 cents for a gallon like the people do it in Venezuela, or the 5 cents that they were charging for gas in Libya? Oh no. We need more money off the people to fund their war, not ours. Never was ours. It's theirs. It's ours now, because we have to stop it. But we will not be losing by default, to answer that question. If Anu is Lord, and the Lord's Prayer, is the Lord's Prayer a trap and or a loose farming tool? Yeah. Anu is the being known as Lord. Not God. Head of the Draco, which is largely what that particular book is about. It's their history, not our history. And most prayer, if not all prayer, is loose. Unless you learn to direct it to a beneficial source. If you're praying to God, you're praying to Anu. You're giving all your life force and energy over to the dark. Religion has a lot to answer for. Are we going to pay any tax in the new system when each country becomes sovereign? I imagine there will be some taxes. I've not asked that question, so I don't really know the definitive answer, but I imagine there'll be certain taxes. But it may get to a point where people say, you know what, these people are owed vast sums of money which we can't, well, they can pay back, but it will just collapse the system and we'll all end up starving and paying $1 million each for a loaf. You know, it would get out of hand. But I imagine in a new, fairer system, we certainly won't be paying taxes on our income. Because if we are, that to me is new boss, same as the old boss. That's not what we're after. And this person won't stand, no matter who gets in, for that nonsense. We've paid enough for the rest of the world, for alleged safety and police and freedoms. It's time the American people are paid back. What are the checks and safeguarding the people of each country against the possible oppression by their own government? Well, it's like a knock-on effect. The business today is run by people with the intentions of greed and theft and competition. If we all change the mindset of that, then there won't be need for that type of oppression. If we all step up, and this doesn't just apply to America, this applies to every country. For too long we've handed our power away. We've handed all of our power away to the government, or to the police, or to the justice. We have to stop doing that. That's why we have a control system. We stop giving our power away and start becoming personally responsible for our own actions and the people around us. There's no real need for government. Well, currently, because of the programming, we're a few decades away from that type. But eventually, with the right education, and I mean education, not mind-controlled programming, where we teach the kids who then go on to teach the next kids, and then the third generation won't know what we were doing or how stupid we were. Was there's no getting away with it from it. We have been very, very stupid beyond belief. We just automatically handed our power away, and the worst thing is we've trusted them. Now, part of the learning curve is that people are going to have to start thinking for themselves again. Critical thinking. Not rely on me or somebody else who does research. You. That's how then the masses are not waiting for a select few to give them the knowledge they need. It's your responsibility Once you strive to obtain the true knowledge, then there's no need for radio shows like this. Because if everyone's doing it and everyone's been taught it, you don't need alternative media, do you? So we have to, I played the song earlier, Show the Way. We have to fill in the void of the departing cabal. We have to show them where they failed. Because make no mistake, they failed. They couldn't fill in the void of the Covens, parents and the Draco. They've gone into total and complete chaos. More so since the Draco left in 2015. And even more since the M guy was taken out in October last year. It's visible. But we have to fill in the void. You can't keep handing your power away and expecting those people to be trustworthy. You have to make them accountable. And too many go unaccountable. And the reason that they go unaccountable is because we don't ask the questions. We don't create enough noise. We are now, but it should never have gone this far. It should have been dealt with a long time back. How do we make sure that the prosperity package given to each government goes to the people, unlike there before under the cabal system? There will be checks and balances. Where there's money, there's always going to be people who want to take advantage. It's human nature. With better education over time, made them realise they don't have to do that. There's no real need to do that. It's the competing problem. That's why I kept banging on about do not compete with your friends, family or neighbours. Once people stop doing that, there's no need for stealing and greed if everyone's got the basic needs. We need the Western world needs a realignment of how we think and how we act. This buying for the sake of it. We must have a new phone every 12 months. We must have a new car. That telly's out of date now. It's over 12 months old. I'll go and buy another 55-inch TV. Or next door's got a 60-inch, so I'll have to go and buy a 65-inch. We're just killing ourselves. And we've all done it to a degree. Myself included. I bought the big house. It became a millstone around my neck that I've still got. For a few people from Britain to come over 5 or 6 times a year to go, ooh, wow, that's great, isn't it? Yeah. Then they go home and then you still got to pay it. It's not good. How many different civilizations have come and gone? Oof. Well, this is the 6th epoch of human. There's been many different civilizations as such contained within those epochs. So I can't really answer that question. I hope that suffices. Watched episodes 203 to 205 last night of Orphan Black. It was reference to cloning and it feels real somehow. I haven't watched that series yet. Maybe I'll have to catch up, so apologies I can't answer that question. But cloning is real. It's far more real than people realise. Synthetics. Thomas, they're talking about a new note they're supposed to be rolling out. Do you think it will come out, or will that be stopped as well? As far as this person knows, we will not be getting a note. A note is a debt instrument. The new currency and the new funding that comes out of the trust will be asset-based, not debt-based. A note is an IOU. It's a debt. So people telling you we're going to have notes are working for the cabal. Period. Whether knowingly or not. They really need to start educating themselves. We're talking about being awake and putting out rubbish that we're getting a new note. Treasury note, my ass. The Treasury note, US Treasury note, wasn't even American based. It was the TRN. Not US Treasury note. Treasury Reserve note. In other words, another fiat currency for the world. Except no one wants it. No one wants the fiat dollar anymore. It's been sold off in record numbers. Eventually, there'll be nothing left. But don't worry. We have a plan. I've been thinking on your idea. I think this has been held over for a few weeks. Apologies for that. That the tourist fields are what make us hot or cold. What would cause climate change? Climate change is bogus. Well, technically it's not. The climate changes every day. One day it's hot, one day it's raining, one day it's stormy, one day it's not. Now the argument that everything's getting hotter is a complete and utter nonsense, because globally it's actually got cooler since 1999. Yes, there are certain regions that have got hotter. Why? Because the planet tilt has changed. That's the top and bottom line of it. You know, if you were talking about climate change, things getting hotter, and you wanted, well, you gave the public the illusion of fixing things, why would you do chemtrails, which is basically like a mirror effect, so that the heat bounces off it and bounces back down? Wouldn't that increase the climate? Think about it. Is the sun just energy for us, as well as a portal? Yes, it's a portal. Not the total energy. There's a lot we don't know about this planet. It's been hints at certain things. This speaker believes we have a central sun below our feet. That's why, you know, science can't explain the minute you take off in a plane, the temperature drops. Doesn't matter which airport you take off around the world, the temperature drops the minute you get off the ground. But aren't you going nearer the sun? So shouldn't it be warmer? Or is the heat nearer to the ground? Now, the other thing is, this planet didn't originate from here. It came from Ursa Minor, as I understood it, which is the little bear. and it's got its own power source. So in other words, it's a hollowed out planetoid, like Phobos around Mars, the Death Star, like the Moon. That's why when something hit it, weapon hit it, it rang like a bell. If it wasn't hollow, it wouldn't ring like a bell, would it? So I think this is why the heat source, in my opinion, it's only a theory, comes from below our feet. It vents out of the opening at the North Pole and vents out at the opening in the South Pole. Goes in a torus field, a torus pattern. The south goes to the equator and the north comes down to the equator. And that's why the equator is the hottest. Because another example is that if the planet's on a tilt and it also wobbles, at some point within that wobble and tilt, all the poles would melt overnight or within 1 year because of the wobble and the tilt, but it doesn't. As the hot air is going out of the vent and over it and going to the equator. Like I say, it's just a theory, but it kind of makes a bit more sense. I think we have a central sun. Is this why some of us are witnessing what looks like directed obfuscation of the sun some days? Spraying being done only on the path of the sky the sun is at. It could be. If the portal opens, they don't want people seeing that. Because you will see things. For those who can, from a young age, I could see inside the sun. I thought everyone could. I don't see a ball, I see an opening when I look at the sun. It's like an invert. And when you can do that, you'll see the dot, which is the singularity, because it's the torus. Same again. A cone shaped one way, facing us, a singularity in the middle, and a cone shape out. Portal in, portal out. Those of you will remember 4 or 5 years ago, NASA Harriman doing a video showing a comet going into the sun at say 4 o'clock and coming out at 10 o'clock. If it went in at 5, it would come out at 11. It's the angle. How can a comet go through the sun? Unless it's an opening. That's how you do star travel. And also the energies from the central sun, the galactic central sun, come through successive solar suns in each system, and then it filters out into the solar system. Over the last 10 years I've noticed a massive increase in the amount of people having tribal looking tattoos. Could this be down to people awakening and subconsciously remembering their past lives, or could it be a negative cabal influence? It can be both, depends on what the tattoos are. Of course there's a lot of people not aware of the sigils. People go, oh look, that's a dragon. other people go, oh look, that's the Baphomet. The sigil Tanath had on a video. Many people saw it as a dragon. Look again. It's the Baphomet. And this is where we have to be careful of doing your own research and finding out what these symbols mean. Because that type of knowledge has been kept away from us for a reason. More and more are cottoning onto the hand symbolism. Of course, one of the executive people in the Comey interview was doing the Masonic shut up signal to Comey. Right on the camera. These people have been doing this for many years, and we weren't aware of what they were doing. We're just thinking they're just holding the mouth, or they're just doing triangles one way or the other, up or down, with the hands. And then suddenly you realise it's a whole new language. So you have to be careful what you're putting on your body, either wearing or tattoos. I'm not fond of tattoos. I never have been. In fact, if it was up to me, I would ban it until people are 25 or over. I know that wouldn't be a popular decision, but there's too many who end up with tattoos because of peer pressure at 16, or even younger now, and then have to live with it for the rest of their life, or go through painful removal, which never totally removes it, just masks it. I think by the time you get to around 25, you're more of an adult with less peer pressure, and you can make the choice yourself without the peer pressure. You said in a recent round table about parents writing up a contract to give to the person about to inoculate their child that commits that individual to responsibility for any damages. This makes great sense. Can you mention it again on the show? Well, again, it's about us just accepting and trusting everything. We trust the doctor. Why? Clive Takala came on, has been on our show twice or 3 times, and told you they don't spend a single minute out of 7 years on cures, training. But we trust the doctor. We trust the lawyer. And they spend their whole life making up lies and talking babble. We trust the government, who never gave anything back to the people. But the next party that comes in will be different. They will make the changes. And then they're worse than the previous one, so they go back to the previous one again. And they're worse again. Why? Because we keep giving them that authority to trample all over us. So when you've got some uneducated nurse or doctor telling you that you have to inoculate or vaccinate your child, those people think they have no responsibility, but they do. And it's up to them to find out what they're administering. So you push it onto them. You draft up a document. The person who vaccinates my child, and the name, is personally responsible. And you write in the figure. You can write in whatever figure you like. 1 million, 10 million, 1 billion, 10 billion dollars, pounds or euros. That in the event of my child becoming seriously ill or dying following your vaccination, you, who administers it are personally responsible for it. You sign this document before you vaccinate my child. You have then passed the responsibility on to that nurse or that doctor. And they should be responsible. They're putting poison into your child. They should be made responsible. And then the nurses and doctors should demand to know what they're giving people. Because if they're made responsible, they have to be responsible and find out what we're being given. See how it works? They tie us into all these contracts that we have no idea. Let's start writing some of our own. And if they refuse to sign it, basically what they're telling you is they don't trust the vaccine either. Well, if they don't trust the vaccine, then they're not administering it to your child, are they? And you just take the child out of the room. You either sign it and vaccinate the child, or you don't, and I'm going home. Responsibility goes from you to them. Was Tesla an incarnate during the time of Atlantis? And was that where he got his knowledge? I don't know that answer. Tesla was a very clever individual. Whether he got outside help, some will say he did, or whether he developed himself sufficiently where he could control the flow of knowledge. This is what happens when you go up the evolutionary scale, the personal evolutionary scale. The higher you go on the mental planes of evolution, the more the abilities and the knowledge comes to you. You don't go looking for it. That's for the lower advancement. They have to rise above themselves and climb the evolutionary scale to be the same way. And what they've been doing is blocking it or thwarting it, because knowledge is what makes you go up that evolutionary scale. They've denied us knowledge. The God of knowledge is called sin. So it's a sin to know knowledge. Like the Adam and Eve story, it's only an allegory. She ate from the tree of knowledge, which was a sin. See how they play with words? But he may have developed himself. He may have come in as a higher end incarnate. What people don't know is Tesla, in his testing of certain things, was the one who called the ETs there, and why they arrived in droves around the 1940s, because he sent the signal out. I don't think he was aware of that, but that's why they started turning up. They recognised there's life there. Of course, if Tesla had been listened to and we didn't have greedy bastards like JP Morgan and Rockefellers and Rothschilds families, we would have had free electricity since 1906. I know you mentioned you'd like to do a special show on Radomir, but could you just suggest some reading material? Yes, I've suggested this a number of times now. Nikolai Levashov, .com, I think, or .org. And then on the top of the headlines at the top of the page, you'll see Svetlana, Svetlana. Read Revelation. That covers the story of Radomir. You'll also learn some things about yourself. All of you. You'll also be very upset. Well, I do warn you of what certain churches and the atrocities they've committed on this planet. But that's where you'll find about Radomir and Magdalena and what the church did. Have you been in touch with Drake since his Saturday show? If so, what do you make of it? I haven't listened to his show. I spoke to Drake a week last Wednesday, so I knew what he was saying. Some of it tallied, some of it didn't. I don't go along with the General Dunford or General Dun F all. I just don't go along with that portion of it. But there's certain elements that Drake said to me tallied with what I know. But the Dunford fella, dear me. Where are we next? Nikolai Levashov stated in volume 1 of his book, The Final Appeal to Mankind. This is about an ET group who turned up in 1929. The Final Appeal to Mankind. It was the shows that did Humanity Unplugged and Humanity Unplugged 2. It covered that story, or that narrative, and maybe it was Tesla that brought them here inadvertently. But they turned up in 1929 and gave us a warning. Unless certain things were done, we were doomed, and that is correct. It stated back in the Future of Humanity show back in June of 2015 on Cosmic Voice. We were in danger of being erased from the surface of this planet due to our own stupidity. Not in a war. A reset. Where the whole planet gets reset and another group of beings comes in and replaces us. Thankfully that is now off the table. And they also talk about we were in danger, we were in a vacuum of some description, which I have seen back in 2013. We're nearing what would be described as the event horizon in that vacuum. So when there's certain events people talk about, that's just one of them. But if you look at the night sky on a long exposure, you'll see that it all revolves around the star known as Polaris, the North Star, and everything else just spins around it. Well, when you apply common sense to that, it tells you we're inside a tube, and Polaris is the point of origin. So all the other stars spin around it. Right, back to the question. At this point I would like to emphasise just one specific attribute of living organisms which they must have in the course of their evolution in order to develop intelligence, namely they must be omnivorous. Do you believe this to be true for all of us now, or was this more about our early development? I believe it to be true. You do need a mixture of both plant life and meat. I know some people don't like the idea of that, and I understand that. You know, you get these people, meat is murder. Well, veg is murder as well. I think plants don't have a conscience, or don't have life, or don't have feelings. Let's think again, as they all do. So it's another part of the divide and conquer. That type of narrative. You can't, well, you can. You can survive on just all meat or just all plant. Some can survive on just water. Some can just survive on sunlight. But you have to have the specific genetics to be able to do that, and not everyone has it. Not all of us came from the same source. And I don't mean source to creator, I mean the ET source. We've all got different ET genetics. 24 different species is part of the human setup. All 24 is not in all of us. That's why we're different. Different colours, different looks, different skeletal, because it depends on which genetics is the predominant one for that particular individual. Because if we all came out of Adam and Eve, we'd all look the same, wouldn't we? We certainly wouldn't be white and black. We'd either be white, all white, or all black. So, despite what the push for meat is murder and all that, we do need a balance of both. But it's up to the individual. A lot of people now just not liking the idea of eating animals, and that's fine. Me, I like me New York strip too much. Chloe goes mad. We go past the field not far from here, and she's moving at the cows, and I'm going, oh look, New York strips. She goes mad at me. Oh. She knows me and my humour. Who or what is the dark journalist Daniel Litz? Good question. Daniel's kind of popped up over the last 3 or 4 years, not the same time as Corey did. Make of that what you will. And some people like his style, some people don't. Again, that's down to a matter of choice. And he seemed to start off well until his last one. I'm always waiting for the hook. Is there a hook? Well, yes there is, because he's now started defending Israel. Oops. Calling Corey a Nazi. Well, Corey has and does work for the SS small p. He's told you that in the shows. But using the Israel or Zionist narrative, Mr. Litz has given himself away, in my opinion. because he's coming at it, or appears to be coming at it. We'll see what happens in future episodes. He appears, like Alex Jones, to be coming at it from a faction-based agenda. So the alternative media is replicating the mainstream, with the factions infighting, and the factions are also in the alternative media are also infighting. Go figure. According to Dolores Cannon, those who've successfully released karma and fear will go to the new earth, while those who wish to continue in negativity will stay in the old earth. If such is the case, does this mean Mother Earth's consciousness will fragment into two to sustain the sentient beings residing on both planets? How long can she keep that up for, and will both her conscious ever merge again? Multi-pronged question. There is elements of releasing karma here. We've all had past lives where we haven't done the correct things. I think a lot of why the trauma is building up, because some people are starting to remember the past lives more and more, and they don't like what they see. It hasn't been pleasant on this planet for a long, long time. Now, if the people can release the karma, but if you've killed someone, you haven't released any of it, because you're dropping down a level into the next life, whether direct or indirect. As for fear, if you didn't have any fear, then things would be a lot easier on this planet. Like I said before, unless you can see into the future, fear is something that hasn't taken place. I fear I'll lose my job, I fear I'll get ill, I fear I'll get this or that. You know, fear is largely a future word. So unless you can read the future, all you're doing with fear is manifesting. You often hear people say, I'm awful unlucky. Go figure, you just manifested it, that's why. I never have any luck, me. Yeah, keep saying that and you'll keep receiving it. This is the part of the secrets that the Cabal know. They don't talk in that manner. I will take over that multinational company. I will take over that country. I don't care what people rules make. If I control the finance, I control the country. Who said that? Mr. Rothschild. He was right, wasn't he? He's controlled Britain for the last 200 years. Doesn't now. They believe they will succeed. We believe we will fail, because we've been kind of downtrodden on, only because we've allowed it. The new earth. No, I don't want to go. I'll skip over that for now. So those who continue in negativity will stay in the old earth. This is the two worlds, and the splitting of the loop. the figure eight, the Mobius. One wave will go one way and one wave will go the other. They will not merge anymore. And those on a certain frequency, be it negative, evil, will go one way, and those not will go on the other, and never shall their paths meet again. Mother Earth is dictating this. She's had enough of the suffering. I think we've all started to learn life lessons over the last number of years in this generation, and it's time for real change. But the problem many will have is people will have tethers to the negativity people. Going forward, that's a problem. The changes to the new earth can't take place with tethers to the old one. You have to let it go. And that's where it becomes a difficult choice. This is why, going back to 2015, I said you have to be careful of your attachments to loved ones and families. Because ultimately, you are not this physical vessel. And you may have other families from where you came from before you came here to fix things. There's many who came here just to fix this problem. They will have families back from where they came from. Some will have, and it is the few, will have real soulmates or soul groups that came with them. But many won't. And the key to leaving this construct is releasing the tethers. All tethers. If everyone does that tomorrow, we're on a new earth. It is there. Transcendence. Sigil magic, I covered that before. I see in quite a few places on the internet that the false prophet is here. Is he? Might be a she. I think there's enough false prophets. I don't think there's any prophets in real terms. Prophet means plan. They had prophets in the olden days, but those people who were profiteering, as in profiting, another play on words, really means plan. Albert Pike prophesied there'll be 3 world wars. No, he didn't prophesize at all. He delivered a plan that was already laid out. Not prophecy. Plan. Not dreams. Prophecy. No. Plan. So you're going to get a lot of this religiosity, second coming, third coming, 15th coming, or whatever it is. The second coming was not Jesus, it was Anu. Oops. And all 8 attempts have failed. He's a busy lad, and I'm busy as well. So I'm still trying to get hold of Shane. So people are busy these days, and we'll see where it goes. Are angels real, and are they benevolent? Yes, they are real, and no, they're not all benevolent. Just not. Or just the darkies pretending in order to harvest our energies and souls. Now there's, again, this goes back to December 31st, 2015. I made the last show of the year, where I said what I felt would play out in the following year. And I said, what you'll find in 2016, not everything you thought was good is good, and not everything you thought was bad is bad either. There are demons that are good. There are demons that are actually helping here at the moment. There are angels that are clearly not. Archon angels is the real term, not archangel. They're the fallen ones. And people can argue different, and that's fine. That's just my opinion. A little bit of fairly heavily supported knowledge. But no, angels are real, and there has to be a balance between angels and demons. Part of the fail of creation is they created too many angels, and some of them fell in balance. That's what happens. Everything's about balance. When we get balance in everything, whether in ourselves, in government, in finances, everything works just fine. Probably the last, no, that will be the last question. Due to our long intestines, were humans created to be vegetarians or carnivorous? Both. Right, I hope you enjoyed the show. Bit of intel to get into. Things are changing. They're changing by the day. There's no question of that now. We're getting a lot of disclosure. A lot of it is going. We're kind of getting blasé with it. Some really extraordinary disclosures going on. There's some really extraordinary things happening with the people in the UK. Ordinary people, not alternative media, are waking up rapidly and now deciding to take on the media and the government, which is the problem. Once they go down, then it's up to us then not to create total anarchy and think we can do whatever we like. We have to show a responsibility and fill in the void and show them how we want to be, life to be, not follow their pattern. This is where the cabal failed. They acted like they were Draco. It failed. We have to be different. I opened the show, the first ever THI show, and I said this show is going to be different. The object is for us to think and act different. We cannot carry on thinking and acting the same way and expecting change. Ultimately, it's us that saves us. It's just a matter of us realising it. And that's the key to everything. Right, here we go. If you lead life in love and care, you will prevail. If you lead life in fear and anger, you will fail. Feel free for you to be the person you wish to be, not the person who conforms to what others want them to be. You are a multi-dimensional being, operating simultaneously on many levels. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be stifled. You are not here to be enslaved, and you are not here to be abused or to compete with your friends, family or neighbours. You are here to be the best you can be, and do so as the crown of creation. Now go out with the confidence of who and what you are, and excel in yourself, and in doing so inspire others. And I'm going to repeat what I said last week. Just try to accept we are in paradise. When we are seeing and understanding something new, our God should be change. Our religion should be understanding. Searching for truth is our greatest social challenge and purpose. I hope you've enjoyed the show. This has been The Truth, Honour and Integrity. I'm sure you'll all agree with me and wish Victoria Plaistow a speedy recovery. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.